so as a bonus to episodes of the follow-up of episode 18 and 19, I kind of bring peanut butter and chocolate together, for harmony.
Yeah.
So now, one of my things again is I talk about purposeful habits. So one of the purposeful habits I learned from my masters, if you ever watched both Grandmaster Karen and Grandmaster Perkins doing stuff, that's why I used to always say when people work with Grandmaster Perkins in particular, stop trying to win. Because he's doing stuff in the body that is not possible for him to know he's going to do it until really recognizing he did it after the fact. Because it's so ingrained in him. And because it's just an intuitive thing. And he doesn't know what he's got to do until he has to do it. Therefore, it's not going to show itself ahead of time. But if you're always trying to win and you put him on the defensive where he's got to protect himself, he's going to do the right thing and protect himself, then you miss the opportunity to feel him moving and doing things that you didn't realize he's doing all the time. But it's so subtle, or at speed, it's so fast, you don't have time to recognize it. So when he would use these principles of purposeful habits, he always liked to always move his body first, no matter what. Even when he was approaching people, first thing he would do is he would change the attitude of his body. So if you and I are doing something, and all of a sudden I change the attitude of my body, like I'm faking you out like in basketball. And you see people doing this in real fights, but they're so uncoordinated in most cases that they really don't know how to sell it, right? So he would do these things to throw you off. And what John was really doing was basically a form of hypnosis. Don't let anybody kid you, I'm just telling you. And what he was doing was, he was building an expectation, and then he was changing the expectation, and he was catching you trying to make a decision or figure out what was going on. And in your brain, and poof, your brain goes off thinking, did he go this way? That kind of thing. The other thing is, once he made contact, another purposeful habit he had is, so he would move to get you to follow or lead impatient. Then he would make contact and he would change again. Watch, I'll do it again. He would go like, and then he would change again. Notice when I touched his hand, right about a microsecond before, I moved my body again. And why would he do that? Because he also knew that once you made contact, whether I contact you or you contact me, we both have the same information in the same frame of time. And therefore, you could probably hit me if you're aware of it. So he would change it again to force you. See how he made that adjustment? Mm-hmm. To force you to make that adjustment, because by causing you to flinch 1, 2, 3 times, as Musashi said, when you make them flinch, you've already won. It's already over. So I'd make you flinch in order to make your movement from that point on more predictable. What are you going to do from here? Too late. You can't move fast enough because what? I'm anticipating you moving. And because I'm anticipating you moving, what that is doing is it's now making not only your movement predictable, but it allows me time to feel what you want to do, to go to another place in the future to hit you. In other words, I set you up. So John was always setting people up. Grandmaster Karen, definitely, he was always setting people up. And yeah, it's good stuff. That's what you want to be able to do. So these purposeful habits of always getting your body out of the way, moving as little as you need, using the full attributes as I was of your body to cut angles as quickly as possible, to free your hands up, put more pressure on the other person, because they now are not trying to defeat your hands. They got to defeat your whole body, which was key. John fought with his whole body. I mean, Tim did too, but John fought with his whole body. So it was never just his hands. It was, he's moving, just stay with me. He's moving with you, and you're trying to deal with these things he's doing, and he's doing like 8 million things at once, and your brain's going, all over the place, because while your brain is not processing it fast enough, it is recognizing all these different things are going on, and it's just overloading, your sensory information, your input. The other thing is, from there, his other habit was what? From wherever he was, moving and shifting his body to where he started getting to the future, and then hitting, and getting to that place and hitting. And then from here, hitting from here, and here, and here. And because hitting is a part of sensitivity, as Grandmaster Karen told me, I don't have to guess of the next place to go. If I hit you in the chest, not only did I know I hit you in the chest and could feel that for myself, that felt pretty good, by the way, but also I can feel how you responded to it, which allows me to do that. The reason is our ability to recognize not only what it feels like when we penetrate somebody, but also what happened, the result, so fast, we're able to do things like that. How do I know it's possible? Because when people hit home runs, you see it in Major League Baseball, especially all the time. Guy hits a home run, he ain't even freaking trying to run. He's jogging around the bases. He doesn't throw the bat, he just lays the bat down. How did he know? The ball's still in the air and he's jogging. How did he know? Because he's hit enough home runs. He knows what it feels like to get a good piece of the ball. If you hit people enough times or you practice making contact with people, you know, based on how their body responded, providing you're not wearing some kind of glove that takes away from your sensitivity, you know how their body is responding, the effect you're having, because you can feel it for yourself. And because you can feel faster than people can move, you can play off of that. The other habit that Grandmaster Karen and Perkins had was they would stay as close to your body as possible. And this is important because one of the things that I remember asking John, because I was like, I don't understand how you're hitting me so fast and it doesn't look like you're moving fast, but it feels fast. And what he was doing was he was tracking me by getting the shadow impression. Sometimes John would have barely a little contact. Sometimes he would have no contact. Now, Grandmaster Karen, he always liked to have a little contact. Not that he couldn't just slap your head off just from where he was. But what was going on was, as they're moving, they're feeling the other person's body changing. So as Jack feels me doing this, of how his body is doing this is because he could feel what my body is doing. And because he's close enough to it, he's not trying to stop my body. He's actually playing off of recognizing the pattern of my movement. Then he's moving to where he needs to be to hit me. So John used to play off of this shadow impression because he could still feel the pattern of your movement. This is jujitsu 101, by the way. I feel your hand moving, and I can catch this thing like this and do this stuff because, not because I've studied 5,000 jujitsu moves, it's just the fact that I know how your wrist works and how it doesn't work, and I can catch these things and all these different types of movements simply because I can feel what you're doing, right? And so as I feel what he's doing, he's feeling what I'm doing, I go to push his arm, there it is, boom, 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 boom. It's not magic, it's the fact that he feels how my body is moving, and with this kind of shadow impression, because he's playing off of my movement, he's able to then track me in real time and hit, because as long as my arm is not in front of his arm blocking it, even if it's just touching, he can still hit just as fast and just as hard, even if he's barely touching me, because there's not enough resistance there to stop him from hitting with full power no matter what. So this is one of the things that John would do to make himself appear faster than he was. Same thing with Grandmaster Karen, where they would touch people. Or sometimes like John would, like in one of my videos, in Lessons from My Master, I talked about how he would use his arm as an antenna, where he would throw a strike out there. Now either you block it or you get hit in the throat. Right. So what happens? People try to get their hand up and they block it. He feels you block it. He changes his body and then he hits you anyway. Or like Grandmaster Karen, he'd be like this. He hits your hand, he catches your hand. He goes like this, you go like that, and then he hits you here, and then he tells you, no, don't let that happen. No, you got to block that. Yeah, right, okay. I didn't know what the hell you did. And the point is, they would be in here moving, doing all these things, and because they had built in all these different habits and this ability to move from one position to another instantly, where it feels like as I'm pushing from the roof, I'm teleporting, that in and of itself becomes an ingrained purposeful habit where everything now starts happening in one smooth, kind of succession. In other words, is there technique involved in what I'm doing? Of course, it's all technique, but the driving mechanism of technique is based on sound principles of, I can feel the pattern of his movement. I can sensorially understand what's going on. And because I understand what's going on, I also know, okay, right at this point, this is good. I'm glad he did that. It looks like I crossed his hands. This is a setup. I'm just telling you. And what it is he is waiting for me to push. There's like tears of joy. See, there's like a little tear there. He wants me to push this so bad. So that's just a function of my experience. I already knew, okay, if I push that, it's going to be over. How do I know that though? Because the way his body, right there, see, this is another setup. The way his body is positioned from experience, I know that this is a setup. I can feel him right there, deliberately. Why are you doing that with your elbow? See, you can't see this. I can feel him deliberately doing this with his elbow. Because most people want to push, and then that happens, and then you get slapped into Valhalla and all that good stuff, right? And so this is what I mean why you want to develop these purposeful habits. I push his shoulder. His shoulder is rising. But the truth of the matter is I'm not strong enough to lift his shoulder. That's all nonsense. What's happening is he's leading and pacing me. He feels what I'm doing. And so he knows from experience and practice how to shift his body automatically. Now, because he's getting ready to make the fist, so just for argument's sake, you make the fist. So that's what people do. And then they get hit with the other hand.
Right.
Because what? Because he wanted me to do that. And you could do this on and on and on. But what facilitates it is you got to develop those purposeful habits. You got to play around with it to be able to learn how to position your body first in the future to cut things off so fast they don't have enough time to deal with it. The more you do it, not only the easier it gets, but also if you're working with a training partner and they're practicing the same thing and they're doing the same things, what happens is it becomes this race of spy versus spy, so to speak, where I go to push his hand. I already feel that ain't going to work. So I step over here. Why did he move his body like that? Because he felt me do this, because he can actually feel me doing this, not just visually track it. He can actually feel from experience how my body is moving, where I'm not pushing, I'm not pulling. I'm isolating, and I'm manipulating the space between us to get out of the way to try to do something like that. Well, he feels me do that, so he's just going to turn his body. He's going to hit before I lift that hand off, because he knows he can't give me time to take my hand off, because once I take my hand off, I'm already in the position I need to be in. He doesn't have enough time to make it work. Last point I'll make on this, now that it just came to my mind, you want to learn as best as possible, to kind of reiterate, to do as many things as natural in your body as possible. We're all different. We're all slightly different. If you took the top sprinters in the world and you looked at them and you looked at the mechanics of how they ran, no two runners actually runs alike. So while there are similarities in terms of form, one of the best things that happens for those guys at that level is they learn how to run as efficient as possible within their body. If you're not built like Usain Bolt, you're probably not going to benefit from things Usain Bolt does, because you're not Usain Bolt. And it's the same thing. If you're not some high-level jiu-jitsu or MMA practitioner, there's some things that they're doing because there's something to be said for talent that you're probably not going to be able to do. Doesn't mean you can't be good or as good as them or maybe even better. It's just that you're not going to be able to do it the way they do it because you're not them. And that's all I'm saying. So even in this, there are things I can get away with because my arms are longer. That's all it is. But if Jack takes that into his calculus, as I do that and he moves in and moves soon enough based on the fact that he knows his body can't chase certain things that I'm doing because my arms are longer, it neutralizes my reach advantage. And your reach is really like a form of speed. If we're both relatively the same speed, whoever moves first may get there, but if we move at the same time, the person who has longer reach is definitely going to get there first, and on it goes. So you just want to make sure you're not locking your mind down into this kind of thing.